ready?
This meeting is being recorded.
Fantastic. So a good day to all of us, participants and all. Thank you and welcome to this resume and CV session being facilitated by Raymond Abaifa, aka Papa Ray. So thank you for making the time to join us. I hope that you will find this session really helpful in your career and personal life. Let me start off by making us all aware that this information I'm sharing with you, the credit goes to Axis Human Capital, an HR firm that pioneered and continues to pioneer the work of helping people find and keep jobs and being able to securely defend who they are in the workspace. So thank you, Axis, for giving me the permission to share this information with all of us, and I'll give all the credit to them for preparing this wonderful presentation. And so the session is on resume and CV preparation. And where did this come from? Yesterday, we had a wonderful session on human capital management as part of our public policy track on the yearly program. And after that facilitation, the questions that were coming seemed to suggest that more and more participants wanted information on CV writing and interview attendance and all of that. And through the wonderful work of Ajua, who reached out to me and suggested we do something like this, I was grateful that we could have this. So all thanks to the Yali team, great work, great team for getting us to do this. And so this presentation will cover basically CVs and resumes. We'll also look at some job search strategies. And also we'll look into interview skills that you need to have. Then some cover letters, how to write them very well. And then some other portfolios information that we may have. And once again, let me give credit to Axis Human Capital. Find their website there and then their information. At the end of the presentation, I will share a link through which you can reach Axis. Let me just show it right now. This is the Career Center for Axis, which will give an opportunity for you to go there on their website, fill out. They have job listings. If I click here, you see their job listings, and then you see the information that they provide on their website. I think it's one of the very well written and well coordinated website for information. And then as you go down, you will see this link or this information on CV review checklist. And you answer these questions. It says, if you have any of these in your CV, then you need to reach out to them and go to what they call the Axis CV review workshop, where their experts will help make your CV better and give you a great chance at the job. Let me admit that when Axis took a look at my CV, they did a lot of improvement on it, and I could not believe my 9-10 pages of a CV was reduced to just 2-3 pages, and it can further be reduced even to just a 1-pager. And I was telling Ajua earlier that the more experience you have, the less your CV should actually be, because you will be speaking and writing from experience. So some of the CV review questions will be, do you have the word curriculum vitae or CV boldly written on top of your CV? Many of us do that, don't we? Do you have passport pictures, ID cards, and etc. attached to your CV? Do you? And then do you have unprofessional emails such as sexymama1@gmail or dear lover forever at whatever? If you have any of these, then watch out, the red flag. Now, does your CV have tables, charts, or images in your CV? Then do you have your bio data such as your marital status, your age, your height, your complexion, etc. on your CV? Now, if you answered yes to any of these questions, then you need to join Axis CV Review Workshop for our experts to help make your CV better and give you a better chance to job opportunities. Okay, so that is for you. And then you go down further and then you see a CV workshop booking form. You fill out the form so that they can have a better chance to increase your CV appearance. And then these are done on only Fridays. So you fill out the information, you see my name, first name, last name, your email, your cell phone number, and then you select a date. When you click on this one, you see that a calendar drops, and you can only select Fridays. They do this only on Fridays. And I'll share the link in the chat so you can get it. And then the questions are you currently seeking or job hunting? Yes or no. You select the option. And full-time, what's your current status? Are you looking for a full-time, part-time job or unemployed? Wherever you are, you put that. And then if there are any additional notes, it's optional. You write it in, and then you go ahead to submit your form, and Access will schedule you for an interview session. So that was just by way of providing you guidelines. And this is their website, www.accesshcl, which is humancapitallimited.com. And then you can send them an info. Okay. Right, so let's go right into the presentation, and it starts by looking at guidelines for creating a simple, well-written CV or a resume. Now, what is a CV or a resume? It usually gives the first impression of you as a person and as a potential employee, and so it must speak very well of you. See it as your opportunity to market your personal brand and make you an attractive first choice pick for any job position. For any job position, you'll be required to send in a CV. Now, this hypothetical case comes. Imagine that you are an employer with 2 open positions to fill. And after advertising the position, you receive 200 CVs for the 2 positions. And you have to screen all CVs in order to be fair and to be able to select applicants to interview. Think of some of the things that would cause you to discard some of the CVs, or things that will raise your interest in other CVs. And question would be, would you like to invest your time in going through all the 200 typo-filled, colorful, disorganized, and grammatically incorrect CVs? Will you? Probably not. I won't, and I'm not sure you will either. And so your CV must be clear and contain only the necessary information that you need. Now, since you are not also physically present with potential recruiters to elaborate on anything, then your CV must be well organized, to the point, easy to read, and must be clean and free from any kind of grammatical or typographical errors. Now, let's agree this. For some of us, English is not our first language. So we think in our local language and then we translate into English to write it out. And as you type, chances are that you can make errors in your typing. Now, your CV must be free of any grammatical or typographical errors, because the typos and the grammar gives a completely different meaning to your CV. The decision to interview you is usually based on your overall first impression given by your CV or your resume. Now, let me repeat that. You make an overall first impression on paper before you are seen in person. So the idea of in person was long before Zoom and COVID-19 that made us go into virtual and in person. Your CV will do the virtual work, and then you will now go in with your in person. Now, therefore, what does the CV really do? The CV is needed to get your foot in the door. Therefore, it should impress and persuade the reader that you are a potential right fit for the job. It should lead to an interview, ultimately to a new job or a career. The distance between you and that cherished career or that new job is actually your CV. The bridge is your CV. And hence, in this document, we'll take a look at the following topics. The difference between a CV and a resume is a very simple thing. We'll do that. We'll look at components of a CV. We'll look at a visual outlet or layout of how a CV should look like. And this is repeated components of a CV. The do's and don'ts of a CV writing. Now, there's CV, and then there's the habit or the culture of CV writing. Okay? Now, when we talk about communication, we have written communication, oral communication, and verbal and non-verbal communication, all right? So when we come to the written communication, you have reading, writing, and speaking. So that's all part of communication. CV happens to fall under writing communication. So we have reading, writing, speaking. These are the modes of communication. And I'm saying that CV falls under written communication. And with that comes the do's and the don'ts of CV writing. We'll look at that. We'll look at some other job search strategies and tools. So the CV writing or the CV skill is a very, very important skill, right? But then there are other ways to find jobs, and we'll look at that. And then we'll also look at writing a cover letter. And then finally, we'll look at interviewing skills that any potential job seeker needs to be abreast with. Okay. Any questions on this so far? Is this a good template to have? Any feedback, please? Remember, this is supposed to be a very interactive session. Okay. Will someone move for me to proceed, please, if all is clear? Unless Adjo has muted everybody. Okay. I guess I just have to move on.
I have not
Right.
muted them.
You haven't muted them. Okay, good. Everyone is so quiet. Okay, so let's start with the first one, the difference between a CV and a resume. And I'm sure you have also wondered what really is the difference. We keep hearing it here and there. Okay, so let's discuss CV first. Now, the word CV is an abbreviation which stands for curriculum vitae or curriculum vitae, some people call it that. But this comes from two Latin words, currere and vita. Currere means to run, as in to run a course, and vita means life. And together, curriculum vitae means the course of life. So these are two Latin words that is put together. Now, CVs are more commonly used for both academic and non-academic positions in Europe and African countries, including Ghana, Nigeria, and all the countries that we find ourselves coming from in the YALI program. Therefore, the CV is typically more comprehensive and covers your relevant experiences over the course of your life. Watch the words or listen to the words. Typically more comprehensive and covers your relevant experience over the course of your life. The word relevant is important because as you apply for a job, you come with so many experiences, but not all your experiences are relevant to the job you may be applying for. So just take note of that. So the CV is more comprehensive. It can be used for both academic and non-academic purposes, and it captures the relevant experience of your life from birth to when you are applying for the job. Now, the resume, on the other hand, comes from the French word for summary, resume, to summarize. So therefore, it is a brief summary about your relevant background, which is talking about your past jobs, your educational background, and the word again, relevant skills. So whereas in the CV, we're talking about your relevant experience, with your resume, we're talking about your relevant skills that you bring to a job. So it's more job focused and more relevant to job, whereas the CV is more comprehensive and covers your entire life course that you've been running. And then we say that the preferred format for jobs outside of academia is a resume. However, resumes are widely used in the US of A, in the Americas. But for most European and African countries, the CV is more preferred. Okay, so now you know the difference between a resume and a CV. Resume is more job focused, talks about your past jobs, educational background, relevant skills that you bring to a job. It's a preferred format outside of academia and is used widely in the US. Whereas for European and African countries, we talk about the CV, which comes from the two Latin words, currere and vita, which means the course of your life. Okay, so now you know the difference between a CV and a resume. But for the purpose of this presentation, I'll use the two words simultaneously or interchangeably. So if I say CVs, it can go in for resumes as well. So CVs or resumes on their own, they will not get you a job. At best, they get you interviews. And it's your performance at the interview that gets you the job. Okay. Because CVs help in reducing the number of possible applicants, that is why we are giving it a lot of attention in this presentation. Now, Actis is a recruitment firm. It's an HR organization. They do organization development, they do recruitment, they do training, etc., etc. And so they have the opportunity to receive CVs. Now, for the purpose of this presentation, I'm saying that if you are sending your CVs to Access, they prefer them to be well written and to follow through the guidelines below. Okay, so we need to now help mute the fine gentleman or lady who just joined us. Please help mute the person. Thank you. So if you are sending your CVs across to Access or to any organization for that matter, please be sure to proofread and revise your CV using these guidelines before submitting them. Okay. We proceed to now talk about what are the components of a CV. The first one is identifying information. Your CV should identify you. Now, instead of just writing the words curriculum vitae, please put your name there. Start your CV with your name. Bold your name and keep it in a much bigger font size so it stands out and it's easier to remember. Keep it simple and professional though. There should be no nicknames on your CV. So I cannot write, even though my nickname is Papa Ray, I cannot write Papa Ray as my CV. My name is Raymond Abaifa. And if your name is long, don't write it full. Your first and last names and perhaps one middle name is important. This is critical for those of us from French origin that seem to have 3, 4, 5 names. You cannot have a long name on your CV. Yes, your first, middle name, and last name is okay. Now, you need to try to fit your mailing address, your phone and email on 1 or 2 lines and to save room for other relevant information. Do not make it a distraction from more important information. If you're using Word, the Word app, it's helpful to put it in a header for the first page only. So put your name, your contact information, which is your email, your phone number, in the header for the first page only. There are certainly do's and don'ts on this document, which I will discuss. And I've said, do not use emails that are very funny, lover of beer for life, sexy mama or sexy dada. Those things are not professional enough. I discussed that yesterday. Now, this is a very important note. In Africa, in Ghana for that matter, or in our world in West Africa, it's very common to see people include demographic details such as their age, marital status, ethnicity, health status, religion, and other identifying information on their CV. Well, we do not recommend doing this, and I'll explain why. Please submit your CV without demographic details unless the job advert specifically requests that. Think of it this way. Your demographic information can always be inferred from your years you graduated from school, your name, and your affiliations, etc., etc. So there's no need to put emphasis on them by putting them on your CV. Actually, when recruitment firms are sending your CV to potential employers, they actually take out your contact information. Regrettably, explicitly representing such information or presenting such information can highlight things about you that some unfair recruiters may use in making discriminatory decisions about you. For example, age discrimination, ethnicity discrimination. Your pictures can let people see who you look like. Maybe you took that picture 4 years ago, 3 years ago. That's not how you look now. And that image may make the person feel, I don't want people who look like this. And so you want to take care of those ones so that you don't open up yourself for any unfair recruiters to discriminate against you. That is why for professional CVs, we do not advise that you put too much of your identifying information. When we want you to sell your skills, your abilities, and your knowledge. And we want to make yourself such that we want to see you. So we invite you into the interview. When you come, all the other things, we'll see how you look, we'll see your height, we'll see your weight, we'll see everything about you. So you don't want to discriminate yourself in that introductory Okay, so the first thing you are looking at is how to identify yourself. The next thing is your introduction, how you introduce yourself on the CV. We call it a profile or career objective or summary. Now, this is critical. A stated objective or your summary is optional. Use it only if it's to your advantage. Now, I've seen several CVs that no matter start with career objective or personal objective. If it's really not going to add anything to your CV, don't do it. Typically, objectives say what you are looking for and fail to mention what you have to offer to a potential employer. And therefore, we recommend you use a profile or a summary rather than an objective so that you can share what you have to offer rather than what you are looking for. And check this out. For all those who write career objective, I'm looking for an opportunity to work in this organization to contribute to their profitability. That's what it usually says. Now, that's what you are looking for. But when you write a profile, you are actually now making yourself, this is what I have to offer the potential organization. So let's give you an example. To obtain a research-oriented position within a financial institution requiring a strong analytical and writing skills. If you by all means want to use an objective statement, make sure it only says what you are looking for. But more importantly, it says what you are potentially have to offer. Okay. So let me give you another example. A summary or profile is better if you have many years of experience and tangible marketable skills. So for example, I am a financial analyst with 4 years experience in financial audits, company evaluations, risk analysis, and financial modeling. Now you realize that this is more of a selling point of what you have and what you are offering rather than what you are looking for. So regardless of what you choose to use, keep it short, simple to the point, and be sure it's no longer than 3 lines. I have seen people write their profile or objective, and it's a whole mini thesis. Do not list tired or overused cliches and competence. For example, I am detail-oriented, I'm a team player, I'm hardworking, I'm a great communicator. These things have been used and bastardized. One of them is I'm able to work with little or no supervision. Really? If the work requires supervision and you've already said you are looking to work with little or no supervision, I mean, please, you cannot be left in the health sector to do what you want. Okay, you cannot be left in an engineering. Let's imagine that a pilot says, I want to pilot my plane and everything with little or no supervision. Seriously, people will not fly that plane. So, and these are overused cliches that people use in trying to make them look good. The rule of thumb is whether to include an objective or summary or not depends on the certainty of your career focus. As experience increases, so does the likelihood of including a specific objective. However, you sell yourself better with a profile or summary rather than a career objective. So I've just made a case for you to use a summary or a profile on your CV or resume rather than an objective. Please mute. The third thing that must be on your CV is on your education or your training, or both education and training. Here we say list and highlight your degree or your diploma first, because that is what you are trying to market and you draw attention to. Okay, we say you list these trainings or educations in reverse chronological order. In other words, you list your highest followed by the next in that order. Okay. So you list the degree or the diploma first, and then the name of the institution, the location and dates can then follow. If you attended a world-class institution that is globally recognized, then you may choose to start with that institution. Our recommendation, however, is that you market you and your training and knowledge first. Because if you say you went to a very great institution, and yes, the institution we know, but you, we don't know. And it's not the institution that's going to work for us. It's you who is looking for the job. That is why you must always work with yourself first. Unless that institution is going to give you a very great advantage. In other words, one rule of thumb too is this: if anything is going to distract from you getting the job, don't put it on your CV. Just take that. Okay? Anything that will distract you from getting the job, don't put it there. Now, the information in the education training session should include degrees received, institutions attended, and/or degrees you expect to receive with the expected date of graduation. So you may be doing a program that is yet to graduate, so it's ongoing. So you can put that information. Now, keep all your educational information in one section. Don't scatter it throughout the CV. It does not matter when you achieve those graduations. Just have all of them in one section. Do not list your thesis or final work in different sections. Keeping them together makes the CV easier to follow. All right? Now, one more thing about putting this information together is that there must be this chronological flow to make your CV interesting. We read your CV as a marketing or advertising document. It must follow logically. If there are questions, please do not hesitate to put them in the chat so that I can respond to them. Relevant courses completed can be included only if they fit targeted job requirements or they enhance your CV for the particular position you are applying for. Now let's move to those of us that don't have work experiences. Students with little or no work experience can list relevant courses you have done. For example, if the position requires people who have done courses in artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, IT, or engineering courses, or engineering backgrounds, you listing that you've done those courses will give you a better chance. Otherwise, do not mention them on the CV, but be sure to mention them in your cover letter and show how they make you a good match for the position. So now I've introduced the word cover letter at this stage. Now, the things that you are not able to put in your CV, you put them in your cover letter. Now, your cover letter is a very sharp quarter-page information that gives strong information about you that will want to even invite the recruiter to take a look at your CV. Let's talk about your GPA. Your GPA is only relevant if it is strong and will distinguish you from other applicants. For example, at least if your GPA is not 3.7 going up, please don't put it there. And your GPA is only relevant if you're applying for a job in academia. In the business world, your GPA doesn't really help us. Okay. And if you are applying for this kind of job, it may be relevant while you are still in school. After graduation, please do not put your GPA when you have finished graduating. In the world of work, your GPA really accounts for very little. Now, other things you can include in your education and training section is special training you've had. Special training you've had, licenses that you have, professional certification that you hold, and also include academic awards, honors, recognition, honorary memberships. You put them there, it's very relevant. So for example, I have an MA in International Relations from the amazing Graduate School of Excellence, Accra, Ghana. The year is September 20, 2004 to June 2006. And the thesis was the impact of foreign investment on the Ghanaian economy. This is a good example of what to put into your educational or training session. That moves us to major session 4. So session 1 was on identifying information. Session 2, let me just go back quickly so you can capture your introduction, profile, or summary. Session 3 is on your education and training. Now section 4 is on the employment history and work experience. Employment history. This is a very important part of the CV because it differentiates you from the other applicants. It must catch the reader's attention and must be concise and still say not just what you did, but how well you did it. So I've seen CVs where they just put a bullet point and said, I was training officer in this organization. Now, that's what you did. And some actually go to the extent of listing the entire job description in the CV. How wrong? Because the recruiter haven't got time to read all of that information. So what should they include there? Include work experience in reverse chronological order. That is, put your current or most recent job first and work backwards to the oldest or your first job. The layout of company name, title, and dates of employment is important, and consistency in formats is key. All of this we're talking about, the formatting must be good. So work history, look at selective highlighting. Depending on the nature or the requirements of the position, good. Eunice, I'll answer that question. Depending on the nature or requirements of the position, list first the information that enhances your application the most. The position you held or the company you work for, depending on that. Whatever style you choose, you must by all means be consistent for all the positions you list in your CV, and we'll look at that. But let me answer Eunice's question before we proceed. Let me just check what the question says. Got it. Eunice's question is saying, is it necessary to always add your thesis topic? Not always, unless it will give you a competitive advantage. So let's say you work in the civil local government service. You've done some work in Amancia West, and the job is requiring experience in rural areas in Amancia West. And your thesis was looking at rural government challenges in Amancia West. By putting that topic of your thesis there, it gives you a competitive advantage. Hope I answered it. If not, then please don't put it there. All right. Edna, thank you. You are joining us from Cameroon. Grateful. All right. So selective highlighting and Eunice, if it's clear, let me know. If not, I can add to that. Okay. Thank you too. Now, job title. Highlight this by bolding it. Capital letters are not necessary, and I'll give an example soon. Administrative assistant, and then you can put national service assistant in bracket next to it. Don't write national service personnel as the job title. No. So you were an administrative assistant, okay, and you did your national service as a result of that. But don't write national service. National service personnel is not a title. It's not a job. And then you bold the name of the organization. They don't highlight, otherwise you provide free advertising on your CV and miss the opportunity to highlight yourself. Well, in other words, anything you put on the CV should be highlighting you and nothing else. You may italicize it to draw some attention to it if it's a well-known organization and will enhance your application. I think this is very important for all of us. And we start thinking about, that CV that I have, I think I may want to go back and work on it. And then you want to look at the location of your work, the town, or if in another country, you add a country. The dates of your employment, the start and the end. It is extremely important to stick to one date format in your entire CV. Now, if you use month and year, be consistent. If you use month, year, date, be consistent. However, avoid abbreviations. For example, write September in full and not SEPT, not Sept. August. Don't do that. State your work responsibility with emphasis on skills and achievements. Work responsibilities, do not write down the job description. To file documents, receiving calls, making calls, receiving letters, filing letters. What skill were those ones? What achievements are those? I'll give an example soon. Also, quantify results. And what we mean here is that specify what you did and how well you did it. Look, the whole idea of including the work history section in the CV is to not just tell what you did, but how well you did it as much as possible. For example, I boosted sales by 80% in my first month, rather than say was responsible for sales. That's a very clear example. Was responsible for transporting goods from the warehouse to the shop. Okay. Next one, tell of your responsibilities and accomplishments using action words, but don't you also overdo it. So words like collaborated, initiated, demonstrated, enforced, implemented, launched, negotiated, promoted, trained. You realize that all these words are stated in the past tense. Okay? And also, don't personalize it and use the first person singular. For example, I worked with the. This is not a letter. Avoid using the third person singular, for example. Akosha is a hardworking lady. So I'm trying to introduce myself and say, Papa Ray is an eloquent facilitator. No. It's not a personal letter you're writing. This is about a professional document. And also avoid writing in prose. Rather, use bullet points and be concise. And keep this work section concise. Bullet points are useful. So I'll give an example. And please watch this example there. The example here, you see, the role is highlighted first and is bold. Public Relations Officer. Next, the trusted newspaper, Accra. So the newspaper, that is the title where you work or the organization. And then July 2006 to July 2012. That means that for 6 years, you worked here. Then look at the bullet point. Developed and implemented communication strategies that boosted the company's image. 1. Advised management on communication strategies leading to the implementation of 3 successful media relations projects. Again, skillfully responded to inquiries from the public, the media, and other organizations. Simple. So this is for your first job. You move to the next place, same thing. The role or the title, the organization, where the organization is. So this one you say the trusted newspaper, Accra, Ghana. Okay. If the job requires you to indicate other countries you worked in, this was in Nigeria, this was in Senegal, this was in Malawi, this was in Ethiopia, for example. So we can see that you've got international exposure. Now, whether the educational session should precede the employment session or not depends on you. Select the one that makes a stronger positive statement about you and mention that first. For example, for a research-oriented or academic position, education should come first. But for a business CV, your work experience should come first before your education. And this is a very important thing to know. That's why yesterday when I was discussing the CV, I said CV should be written and not one that you just take off the shelf and start throwing around. So you have a job to apply for, put some effort into customizing the CV that will work for you. You cannot take a CV that is good for academia when you want to maybe do your master's or PhD. There's a way you prepare that CV from when you want to go and get a job in another institution, how it goes. For example, if you want to write to any of these international NGOs or the financial sector or hospitality, anywhere you want to find yourself, there is a way the CV will look and sound. If you're applying to the military, for example, the security services, it's the way your CV must sound. If you're applying to work in a school, a nursery school, a secondary school, a junior high school, a tertiary education, there's the way your CV must sound. If you are writing to go and pursue further studies, it's the way your CV must sound. Okay. Now there's a 5th section on your CV, which is called the customized section. This section should contain any and all of the following subsections listed here. Tailor it to suit your profile. Now, this is where you actually get to now sell yourself more. And this is where you actually display your uniqueness. This section should contain all the things that are unique to you. It's important to include information that tells the recruiter a little bit more about you as a person with interests outside of school and work. And at Access, we look very closely at this section, and so careful to provide honest and relevant information about you. This customized session should not be taken for granted, please. For many people, so the first 4 sessions that I've talked about, can be very generic. But this session is where we want to know who you really are. So you realize that a lot can be said about you from your CV. And that's why you shouldn't just rush over it or give it to somebody to write it for you, and then you don't really know it and own it. This is you polishing yourself before a potential employer. Now, under this customized session, what are the things you can put in? Your accomplishments, your awards, and your recognitions. So this is where those of us that do not have a lot of work experience and we're active in student politics, we're active in church administration, we're active in youth groups, community activities. This is where you get to highlight your skills and your capabilities. Generally, this is where you blow your horn. It is in this place. And let the employer know that you are an achiever. You may also list professional awards here. This is where you put that information. Don't overload this session though. Okay, let's see. I think there's a question. Oh, okay. No, it's not a question. So don't overload this session. Information in this session may also be incorporated into other parts of your resume. For example, academic honors may be included in the education section, but as much as possible, integrate the awards in the sessions that have information on what you were doing that earned the award. Don't just list work awards in this session alone. Keep it in the session, and you must start with those points for emphasis. For example, special recognition for agile leadership, 2013 National Summit, Association of Digital Marketers or Marketing, June 2018 is there. It's an example of an accomplishment, an award, or a program you attended, a global conference you participated in, even if it's online. This is where you put it. Your CV must also have information on leadership experience. Don't sell yourself short by omitting this. If you do have leadership experience, list the roles and the accomplishment, a track record of your leadership, then going as far back as possible to secondary school, if it's that important. You were the class prefect, you were the school prefect, you were the dining hall prefect, you were the entertainment prefect, you were the treasurer. So for example, leadership. I was the treasurer, ASEC, and the university, the Excellent University College chapter, Accra, Ghana. And you put it there. It's leadership. Somebody might say, oh, because I was not a president, I can't say leadership. You were a treasurer, you were a secretary, you were the organizing secretary. You were the entertainment prefect, for example. These are all leadership things that you put there. And then you move on to professional membership and affiliations. List these if it enhances your application. So you realize that in your CV, there are things you might have done that may not be relevant, so you don't put it on the CV for that particular job. Professional associations, honorary memberships are there. So for example, you are a professional or academic affiliation, you are a member, the Ghana Journalists Association, you are a member, Institute of Sustainable Development. Yeah, you list them there. And then the next one is professional development. And all these are on the customization, your customization section. That's where you put all this information. Professional development. You may list short courses, training sessions, etc. that you have participated. Be sure to give the title and then the organization that gave the training, the location, and the timing or the date. So for example, professional development, Advanced Proposal Writing Workshop, March 2018, Foundation for International Development, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. There's a professional development, a course you undertook, virtual cybersecurity, IT, or workshop on disability, workshop on whatever, your yearly experience. This is where you put that. Then very important here is volunteer experience. Now, a lot of people don't like to volunteer. How sad. Well, I work for an organization that works with volunteers a lot. So you can imagine how important this is to me. Imagine I find your CV, and if you go to my WhatsApp statement or status, you see that I've actually put in there a recruitment call for volunteers for our next cohort of people. Now, if you don't have any volunteer experience, you can see how difficult it will be for you to be an attractive candidate for me. So if you have served as a volunteer, either during a natural disaster, during a community program, at church, at work, at home, within your community, this is where you list that. If you have served as a volunteer, you may list that information as well, the organization and the accomplishment you got there. So for example, civic education teacher, Sweet Mary Community School, Takwa, Ghana, January 2019, January 1999 to present. That's just an example. If whatever you are doing right now, you are volunteering in a special school, running a shop for your uncle, a pharmacy, or whatever, and you are volunteering, you put the information there. Then we move to skills that you have. List specific, tangible, marketable skills. What are some of these? Computer literacy, languages spoken, typing speed, use of specific tools, etc. List the specific software or tools you can use. You may group them into categories. For example, software development, statistical analysis, publishing, art design, etc., etc., etc. And then an example of how you can write that in your CV is this. Under skills, you say Microsoft applications, Microsoft Word, Outlook, Excel, PowerPoint. Graphic design software, Adobe Photoshop, CorelDRAW, AI, whatever. Those are your skills. Writing skills, reading skills, organizational skills. You are a good cook. You are a good, whatever you are doing. And then we move to, now we are getting toward the end of your CV, your interests and your activities. You could include recreational activities and interests. Be honest. This shows you are a rounded person and sometimes may catch the eye of the recruiting manager and spark an interest in you. You will be shocked how many people have actually been invited to interviews because their interests and activities actually resonate with the recruiter. For example, if you are a lover of nature, you like to go camping and go to do natural history and travel. For example, for those in Ghana, if you like to go on the CTFM caravan, or what do they even call that? In every March, they do the Heritage Month and they go on a tour of a tourist place and all of that. You may be surprised that the recruiter is interested in activities like that. People who are in love with nature, people who want to go biking or skiing, whatever it is. You see? People that like to work with the aged, for example, people that like to work with the disabled, street children, things like that. So your interest and your activities, for example, photography, traveling, yep. You find Papa Ray there. I love to travel. I just love to see new people, new environment, taste different foods, learn languages, and all of that. Biographies, reading biographies, blogging, documentaries, the interest, the thing that you love to do. Honestly, when I'm recruiting, and this is just giving you a secret, when I'm recruiting, I look at these interests and activities very well. So these are the various options of a CV.